In Australia, tens of thousands are being ordered to evacuate their homes as wild rains and floods hit Sydney over the weekend. Other parts of New South Wales are also affected, with the state's Emergency Services Minister saying areas that have never experienced flooding could also face some impact. There were around 3,000 calls for assistance overnight. No deaths have been reported so far. Let's find out more from our Australia correspondent Jonathan Pearlman, who's in Sydney but unaffected by the floods. John, what are conditions like today and how's the evacuation process going?
Yes, so the deluge is continuing. I'm in a part of Sydney that is not actually being flooded, but I can assure you that the rain is continuing here as it is across the city and in large parts of the state of New South Wales. But Sydney has had constant rain, which has filled up some of the major rivers, and they are peaking, and emergency services are taking thousands of calls from people needing to evacuate the flood waters. Tens of thousands of people in Sydney are now being ordered to evacuate or facing evacuation orders. So there's an emergency effort underway to make sure that everybody is safe.
What is the public sentiment on the ground, John? We understand some suburbs in Sydney's west are submerged for the third time this year, and people there are understandably frustrated.
That's right. It's really incredible. The floods have been relentless for the last 12 to 18 months. And the scenes that we're seeing today, we've seen before, and we've seen them recently. It's very difficult for families. I mean, these sorts of emergencies are always difficult for people who are facing the loss of their houses and watching the water rise all around them and watch their streets go underwater. But it's particularly difficult because there are families that have been through this, as you say, three times in the last 12 months. The state emergency minister described the scenes today as heartbreaking, and I think for a lot of families, it really is to have to go through this again. It is frustrating, and when the waters recede, I think there's going to be discussion about how do we prevent this in future.
And on that, how prepared is Sydney to handle continued flooding? It's not the first time, and what are its flood defences like?
So the emergency services here are good. They're well trained and now they're well practiced. But one of the major issues has been development, that there's been development in areas that authorities know are prone to flood risk, areas around rivers, areas where there's been flooding in the past. And so that when you have a La Nina event or when you have intensifying threat of disaster from climate change, it means those areas are increasingly vulnerable. So I think the next question is going to be, how do we ensure that our development in Sydney is safe as the city continues to grow?
Jonathan, stay safe. Australia correspondent Jonathan Pearlman in Sydney. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos.